So how can you think like a drummer when you're programming drums? Okay.
Pretty much dancing on that middle tom.
Okay. Andrew, can I get your thoughts on what we did here with these toms, with this like little tom section?
The biggest thing in like the part itself is written well, because I know the tom part that you were paying attention to a little repetitive, but that's the genre, so that could be a thing. Like Green Day, Blink 182, they repeat themselves a lot, and will even like it'll sound like they just copy and pasted sections.
Right.
The variance in being on the grid, like taking the whole thing and dragging it a little forward or backward in the timeline, will just give you a whole different vibe. And you could do it by the section, you could do it by the snare, like just by itself, you could do it just the kicks. Those
Usually
little
when
things.
It comes to humanizing the drums, Cubase has this MIDI modifier section where I can offset the position and the velocity. So I'll usually have it randomize the velocity, plus or minus 3, in addition to, if I had actually played it on MIDI and just doing it manually. And then the position, I'll add, like it'll randomly move it. So there's a tiny bit of swing, but just kind of enough to make it humanize.
No, that's fine. So random does something. It definitely is better than just being stiff, but real drummers will either like really, really good drummers, not just real drummers, but really good drummers, they can drag behind the beat for like an entire section by just a little bit to make it feel sludgier, or they can be a little bit ahead of the beat and make it feel faster than it actually is. So like playing with that, like literally taking the MIDI and just shifting it like off of the grid, all of it in unison by a certain direction, like just the smallest amounts can change the entire feel of it. Another thing is to like keeping the like trying to visualize which hand is doing what and making the offhand a little bit weaker and maybe a little later or a little ahead while keeping the other one a little bit more constant is another way of humanizing. There's a lot of things that it's just like think about what a person would do and mess with it. So it's like it's hard. It's really, really hard. I've been trying to like program drums and make them sound more human. And then I go listen to the stuff that I've recorded and it just sounds like a person. And I'm trying to figure out how to get that across. But those are the things I found where it's like, you'll hear that different hands, even though like intentionally I'm trying to hit it evenly. Yeah, there's inconsistency. There's a little bit of swing. Like the left hand is, for me, is always a little late. So it'll go like ba da ba da ba da ba. And if I'm rushing, like trying to get a really fast fill, they'll flam more than they will be even. So like that's, not saying do those exact things,
right?
But those types of idiosyncrasies and stuff like that will lead to a more human sounding thing.
Yeah, I think that's all super helpful, I think. But I guess, I'm struggling because pretty much like any basic drum beat is, kick, snare, and hi-hat. But then when it comes to, we're trying to do this backbeat on the toms for the second verse. And is there any sort of things to know about, like a verse like that where the backbeat is on a tom or the toms, just in particular, because I really don't know about that.
So when I heard it, it didn't sound, nothing about it sounded like a person can't play this, which is a good thing. But again, it would just come down to trying to air drum, whatever it is, even in slow motion, and feel how it's ergonomic. Maybe not every hit is going to be on the floor tom. Maybe you're going to not hit the floor tom and instead hit a kick. Like there's small things like that, but go ahead and play it again. So there's nothing there that sounded bad. I think for the purpose of songwriting, that's really, really good. And I would leave it there. Further than that is like humanizing. And again, just thinking about if you were to slow it down and just play it, like air drum it slowly and figure out like where are you going that it feels like you're stuttering or like have to do two things. Like if you're constantly doing 16th notes on the floor toms and then you have to hit a snare at the same time, you're going like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Like that's really tough to do. So instead a drummer might go 1, 2, 1, kick, snare, kick, floor tom to like just transition or something like that, or move up to the rack tom to like there's different movements that they would do to try to make it more like ergonomic. So like and basically the only real way to program drums really well is to learn how to play drums.
Right. Yeah. So I'm trying
because
to
like what I'm describing.
I used to hate when he would say this shit to me, man. Like, because
but
it's true though. I get it.
Yeah, it's like what I just told you is think like a drummer.
Yeah.
And like that, you can't just tell someone to think like they already know how to play another instrument,
Right.
other than like slow it down and like air drum it, pretend that you're doing it. Because like short of studying the habits of a drummer and trying to intellectually absorb those things, that's the next best thing. And I cannot intellectually absorb how to play an instrument. I just have to learn how to do it, and then I can learn the theory behind it. So
right. Yeah. No, that all makes sense. I like
that was actually, that made a lot of sense, man. About specifically what you said about how a drummer would probably not be like doing this with his hand a lot and like leaving a kick there, because it's gonna have pretty much the same effect if you put a kick there in place of the tom.
Right. Yeah. So that's one thing is like, because a lot of times the low tom and the kick are going at the same time.
anytime that happens, you have the choice to drop out a floor tom, and that would give your virtual drummer a chance to be mobile, and a chance to switch between what they're hitting. But at the same time, there's one of the ACR songs I was just editing. Literally, I'm constantly going on the toms and I have 16th notes on the kicks. So like it's all about the vibe you're trying to get and experimenting, and then again, try to just visualize a drummer doing it. And if it seems like you can't figure out how they would hit those things, that's probably a good sign that you might want to make it less complex.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I think just to kind of summarize though, I think we hit the mark, and I don't think we need to overcomplicate what's going on here and what we did. What we're doing with the tom is pretty much what I would do with trap hi-hats. It's the same idea. It's like you have like your constant like 16th note, and then you have like a trill at the end of it, like a
right. Yeah, that's kind of what I was
type thing
trying to do.
Yeah, and so I think we hit the mark, and I don't actually think, I think we think it should be more complicated, but it actually isn't.
I think it's just a matter of making it sound more realistic. I think that'll get us where we're thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which means we pass the like writing vibe check of it, and it's just about the like more in the wires techniques that Andrew was talking about.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you want to learn how to produce, mix, and master your music to sound as great as your favorite songs on Spotify, click the link in the description.